So take it away, Dave and Mackie.
Hello and welcome to
Dave
and Mackie's Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia, the land down under, for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. It's a real, not made up. It's home to fresh, unaltered, uninfluenced, and unbiased ideas and conversations in the chat room.
All the uns.
So please go into the chat room. It's quite full today, so go in and we will talk to you. And it's also a place to get your merch, your merchandise. This is show number 498, 898, 400. Yeah, that's right. 2 more shows to 500, which is half a millennium. That's a lot. That's a lot of shows. 500, almost 500. Catch us on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere, in space station, or listen at home on a Grace table of digital radio. In fact, listen to us anywhere where radio waves propagate, because there is a terrestrial station in Kentucky that broadcasts this, not just on the internet. If you miss Solage's show, that's okay. It's okay, because you can go and, get the archives, become pay $5 a month, I think, unless it's still free, and you can check out our shows. And she, in fact, had a roundtable with Madeline Rudy and John Savage.
Now that's the truth.
And that is awesome, I think. I missed it, so I can go to the archives and have it, listen there, which is brilliant. And you should. She's awesome. I really enjoy listening to her. She's got a great radio voice, but she's also a really nice lady, and she's done publications, videos, documentaries. She's got other shows. She's done the whole gamut. She's experienced things as well. So if you want to do yourself a favor, go and listen to her. You might come away learning something new. And she always has great guests. Like I said, only $5, unless it's still free, to get to the Freedom Slips archives. Right? Now, before we start in earnest, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For Dave, that's the
Dak and Jung.
Thank you. And for me, it's the Darak people. And we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And in the spirit of this, I found a beautiful quote. Now, I don't know who wrote this quote, right? So I do apologize. I can't name you. But I want to read it out in full. The single biggest thing I learned was from an indigenous elder of Cherokee descent, Stan Rushworth, who reminded me of the difference between a Western settler mindset of I have rights and an indigenous mindset of I have obligations. Instead of thinking that I am born with rights, I choose to think that I'm born with obligations to serve past, present, and future generations, and the planet herself. I think that's a really nice way of looking at the last 300-400 years of colonial history and the way we've been raping and pillaging the land. And bear in mind that the Europeans are also indigenous people to Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were different. They weren't always the colonial overlords as we know them now, the Spanish, Portuguese, English, Germans, Belgians, etc., French, Italians, in fact. Yeah, so most European nations engaged in some form of colonialism or another. But before that, believe it or not, they were just like all the other Aboriginal and indigenous people on the planet. Right, they lived close to the earth, natural rhythms. The Druids, a tradition that is still upheld by the Wiccans today. It's only a fairly recent development, if you look at the history of the world, that in the West, at least, we seem to have lost our way, and we think of we have rights, we're individuals, me, rather than thinking of all the generations that went before us. So recently, Dave, I came across a very interesting post which highlighted the fact that it would have taken several hundred grandparent generations over the last couple hundred years to get you where you are today. And think of all the unlikely things that had to happen for you to be here today.
Oh boy, yes.
All the people that had to meet, all the journeys that had to be undertaken, all the things that had to be survived, etc., etc. So we owe our existence to the countless generations of our ancestors. But hardly ever do we think of that. We're completely self-centered, and I think that's a product of recent philosophical thinking. Again, recent, I'm talking about a couple hundred years, where we are at the center of the universe. It's no longer the Earth or the Sun. It is us, the individual, that is at the center of the universe, and the entire multiverse revolves around us, or at least that's the way we're given to think. So remember the ones that went before you, and think of the ones yet to be born that you're going to pass this planet to. Even if you don't like your contemporaries, right? I get it. I get it. I'm not a big fan of people. I'm a big fan of persons. Right? I don't like mob mentality. I don't like large crowds. I don't like any of that. I do like individuals, right? And I'm sure all of you have individuals in your life that you care about and think do the right thing. So remember the ones that went before, and think of the ones yet to come. That's my little philosophical nugget for you, Dave.
Oh, well, hey, thank you. I think there's a message in that for all of us.
Oh, whenever you say that, I think it was the Comedy Company, right?
Yeah.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, it was. That was the preacher.
Yes.
Reading
Yes,
a psalm,
yes.
which was just so bizarre and out of place. No one could make heads or tails of it. And then he would slowly close the book and repeat the words every week. It was, and I think there's a message enough for all of us.
Yeah, no, right. Oh,
Classic comedy. Yes, I know. It takes me back. This I don't know how your week has been, but when because my week in the media is basically how I deal with things, and I came to maybe a sharp, sudden awakening that I realized I don't Google anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Google. No.
Sorry. It doesn't matter.
It just says, I don't understand. I know.
No. What it is it doesn't matter if you Google or not, because I had conversations.
Did you hear my phone respond to me then?
Yeah, yeah. But I was chatting to someone online, right, about something, and they told me this was in Teams, and they told me corporate Teams, and they told me that as soon as we had chatted about whatever we were chatting about, something popped up on their phone like an ad.
Yeah.
I think it was an Android ad. It doesn't matter. But Dave, it doesn't matter if you don't use it. You don't believe in Google? Google believes in you.
Shit, lucky it can't hear you. So I haven't actually used the search engine at all. I don't search for anything any longer, which is very strange.
Mm.
That's all I did before, and all the other things were side alley, like at the circus, right? You go to the big tent, right? The big top. You don't go down, the carny alley, right?
Yeah.
Where everything's rigged. You go to the big top, right? Well, that was what in that tent was the search platform, and I used to go there all the time. All the other things were secondary. Like YouTube, I would watch an occasional YouTube. Now I'm just in YouTube. It's all I do. I swear if Elon could hurry the hell up and get me that chip in my head where I can just perpetually watch YouTube clips in my brain, right? Oh, there'd be a part of my brain that'd be extremely happy with that. I do love the leader. In fact, Nicky, I've been... you're not the only person that I say this with now, right? I feel kind of like I've cheated somehow. But it's like, just remember, I love the leader. Yeah.
No, I said it first, man. Sorry. I love him more, or her, or them. I don't care. I love them
all of them.
All the leaders. All the leaders.
That's right. Jesus, Solo Buddha. That's right.
Help me, to read an education. Let the hooks do their work.
That's right. We've lost it, mate. So what scared me more about my phone, how it just responded to those words earlier, was when my home device, the ones that sit on the shelves and on the walls and in the kids' rooms and are everywhere listening to everything we say 24/7, just knowing that I love the leader, right? Just how I praise the leader. So when it asked me the question, if you've got problems sleeping, just ask me for help. That frightened me no end. Because, look, sure, we're all Manchurian candidates, right? Aren't we all? All of us? We're all being, socially steered and, at night, clearly programmed by our little desktop device that talks to us while it knows we're sleeping. Right? Isn't that what, like the moment I invite my device to do it, it's like when you on the Lost Boys, you have to invite the vampire into your house. Yep. Well, I wanted the device in my house. I've got it. It's so I think invited by proxy, I suppose, because I've already purchased it. And what do I do now? I can't just put it in the bin. I can't go, oh, I'm sorry. It's not you, it's me.
Well, you could.
And end the relationship like that, knowing full well it's them and not me, right? Because that's all that phrase means. When whoever told you that, they were lying, by the way.
Yeah, it's you all the way.
It's completely you. Yep. It was never me. It's all, wow.
Couldn't get out there fast enough. Shoot, there's like a cloud-shaped me where I used to be, and a sonic pop. Like,
yeah,
there you go, on.
That's it. Oh, so my life in the media, Mackie, with this week was there's a lot going on. So if I just I'll touch on the topics so we can break them down later and unpack each one in whatever order. It doesn't matter. So the volcanism is just crazy. Etna's going off again, yeah, and La Palma clearly is still going, and it's met the ocean now, and it's extending the island's mass, which is great. Its circumference is getting bigger. Good for those real estate agents there in La Palma that can sell the land off, right? Good for taxes. And then we've got the earthquakes. So there was a deep earthquake off Vanuatu of a 7.2. Oh my goodness!
Yeah. I mean, earthquakes all over the shop, volcanic eruptions all over the shop.
Yeah.
It's really quite. There's a lot of activity.
We haven't had a year, Mickey, where there's been like 7.
Yeah.
7 above 6.0.
We didn't get a tsunami warning, right?
We didn't because it's a deep earthquake. You see, deep earthquake is beneath the crust, on the bottom side of the crust. But if it was a shallow earthquake, it can cause displacement because happens to be the edge of the plate, and it is a subduction zone. So it's quite possible there could be some movement there, right? Okay, that's what we saw in New Zealand when it shifted like 2 meters. However, I was going back through some old tsunami information, and remember how I've said this before, Mackie, how there was a tsunami 700 years ago. I think it's about 1419, the year. In the Pacific, there was a massive tsunami that was so large that it was 60 meters of inundation height of the initial wave.
That would have gone several kilometers inland.
In fact, it met up with the Blue Mountains.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so just for everybody out there, that's about 40, 50 kilometers, depending on where you're looking at it from.
So, it's quite kind of low-lying areas all there, and all the rivers back up into it anyway. So the rivers probably went less distance than, Sydney Harbour, not so much, but, from Botany all the way through was one of the easiest vectors, because anywhere above Sydney is all hilly, and it's quite difficult to get anything up that way. But crazy, Mackie, crazy. So there's some researchers that said that the waves broke over the north and south head. Over the top, 60 meters up.
Wow.
Yeah. So that would have been devastating at the time.
Wow. I would have been okay here.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway.
It would have been okay too. Yeah. So anyway, so looking at all of that, and we've had 2 tsunami warnings in Sydney cancelled, or 2 advices that were green, which means it's safe, in the last week and a half. I didn't want to mention last week because it was just kind of a one-off. Now it's like, there's been 2 of them, and now we have one of the largest deep earthquakes that we've seen, with all the other volcanism, the plate tectonic movement, and everything that's going on. This is crazy times.
It is.
we're at the beginning of the Earth's maximum going into that, and we're seeing we had a CME come past yesterday, our time, and it was light on. It didn't kind of do much, but it's showing us that it was a direct hit, but it was just a bit weak. So, if we could have another Carrington event, and this society is gone.
Yeah,
gone. There isn't recovering. There's no recovering from an event that makes your phone arc inside and blows itself up, right? There's no recovering from electrical generation, food and water, the transportation, vehicles. There's no computers. That means there's no money because there's no who has cash, right? There's nothing. Our whole civilization comes to a grinding halt if we had another Carrington event right now. That's why I think it's up there. However, you think that's bad.
No, we got worse. We got much worse.
All right, so some friends of the station sent me through some interesting information to do with the refueling movements, the refuelers. So these are the airborne, jet refuelers. Well, these are like 707s or something, and they carry a ton of fuel or tons of fuel, and they can refuel like the F-18s and the B-1 and the F-117s, any of our airborne kit, even the helicopters, Mackie. I've seen helicopters refuel.
Yeah, no. They're really cool, those things, right?
And what about the wingman drones?
Yeah.
They're the unmanned drones with the new fighter that you can have as wingmen. And they can have guns and shoot things and act on their own behalf to keep you alive.
I hope the leader will make them autonomous soon. I love the leader.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying all those words I've just said all equate to me loving the leader. So one of the things, I got to show this. So there was something like 20 U.S. Air Force KC-135s, all taking off at the same time. They were tracked on, Flight Radar 24, all identified. Now, I'm not saying where they've gone, but they all left at the same time. And it was, some say, it's just a large scale test, part of a, military things they do, training missions and things. That's a lot of refuelers, to be honest with you. It's the same thing that when I heard about the B-52 movements.
Yeah.
This has got the same kind of escalation for me. And look, I can't help it. It's what I look at. And if I get too consumed by it, I've got problems. And I don't want that. So just putting it out there, this is what I found. It's what came to us. And I verified that it's real. So, the geopolitical arena right now is kind of crazy. And guess what I heard today? Duterte resigned.
Yeah, I heard that. And he will leave political life, which is very surprising. It's astounding, in fact.
Yeah, it kind of comes in line with, I saw the some country, Mackie, just some country out there who might be a little north of him, had surrounded his island chain in military vessels this week.
That same country also had 39 incursions into Taiwanese airspace.
Yeah. So there's some country out there doing things.
A country, but it's just a general country like any other country.
Because we want to keep our YouTube channel. So and our family's alive, and I don't want my brakes tampered with anymore. So I'm good. It might have been the reason for the instigation of AUKUS, but you know what I've discovered, Mickey? That by establishing AUKUS now, it gives the Australian Labor Party basically put a wedge in them for not participating and not being part of these discussions, which is certainly something that they'd be on top of. And the next thing is our PM is going to, I think today, was it, giving a speech at the UN on climate. That's funny.
I thought we weren't invited.
That's like Hitler, giving a speech at the UN about world peace.
And human rights.
Right? Human rights, yeah, that's right.
We love the Jews. Bring the Jews to Germany. Yes.
And I love the leader. Right, that's right.
Just on that though, on the theme that you
it kind
started
of
earlier.
Didn't it kind of all seem to go together? I don't want to see everything separately like the news does normally to everybody.
No, it's all connected. But there's actually more, and this is to the current instability. So Bolsonaro, a Brazilian dude, president, right? Mm-hmm. So apparently there were protests, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people in Brazil protesting across 160 towns and cities in Brazil for him to resign, essentially, right? So get rid of.
That's a pretty big call.
Bolsonaro. It is.
But how do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, he's going to say, what protests? I didn't see any protests. Nothing to see. Move along. But also we lost our premier here in New South Wales, which is very unusual, especially right now, for various reasons. And there may be corruption allegations in the offing, but let's not speculate. But I just heard the timing odd because here in Australia, in New South Wales, we're just about to come out of lockdown.
On the 11th. Yeah, they've called it Freedom Day, but we only get a couple of Freedom items back that we used to have.
Yeah, we love the freedom leader, but the problem is
we do love the leader.
Yeah. But what's going to happen though? The numbers are going to explode, right?
Yeah.
Or at least allegedly, and so maybe she doesn't want to be in the crossfire for that. But look, whatever. And on top of that, in Germany, Chancellor Merkel, if you know her, she's gone. Like when she's just retired, she was in power for 16 years.
I watched the election results.
Yeah,
there's four parties that in any combination of those four, excluding one party, could lead.
Yeah,
as a minority.
But now they have to form a coalition, which hasn't happened in Germany in 16 years. Now, see, Germany, similar to Israel, there's no two-party system, right? It's actually a fully parliamentary system, and parties have to form coalitions if they don't get clear majorities. In something that doesn't happen too often in a two-party system like the Westminster system, like in the UK, and even in America, where you really have a two-party system, not really, but sort of with the Democrats and the Republicans, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in Germany, Israel, and other nations, you have a true multi-party system where things can happen quickly, and they have here. So this is the first time in 16 years, like I said, where Germany, for all intents and purposes, is the powerhouse and center for the European Union.
It is absolutely, and plus, remember they print the currency for the EU, and they're also the center of the legal system for the EU.
Yeah, so so see, Hitler should have just waited. Just wait.
That's all he had to do. He could have taken some lovely holidays, drunk some nice wine.
Well, we'll just buy the rest of. We're not going to invade. We're just going to buy Europe. They only bought Greece. Right? No,
imagine how cheap it is now.
It's cheap. Bargain basement prices. But what it means is, so globally speaking, we have never been in a situation we haven't been in a situation like this for about 80 years, right? Where the political situation globally was so in flux and open hostilities are displayed, and where there's no clear agenda on a global scale. The old power structures are breaking down, new power structures are forming. We're seeing alliances coming up out of nowhere. We see political systems that have been stable for decades being shaken up. And you can say what you want about Duterte. He's been in power there for a long time. He was the guy, if you don't know, that came to fame by pretty much killing drug dealers. That's actually what they've said they've got him on. Yeah. Well,
they said for the dealings, to do with drug dealing, and because he put an express command out to all of the let's call them patrons, right? Not patrons, but all patrons of the islands, and said, look, if you know someone's dealing drugs, you're allowed to kill them. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's like an amnesty.
Yeah, and he killed a few himself, he said.
He said he used to ride around on a motorcycle shooting drug dealers.
Yeah.
Because the person who's dead can't say I wasn't a drug dealer.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like if I had the opportunity to participate and actually mete out actual justice, not just imagined justice, I can't really fault him too much. But the problem that we have here is that we have emerging powers with declining powers, and the superpower that there has been a superpower for the last 30 years at least, like a single super global superpower, which was the US, is in decline, and now it has in its leadership position, it has the oldest president ever had, who now is clearly suffering from some cognitive challenges. No, he is. Look,
I laugh because that's the slimmest description.
And we're seeing all the alliances being kicked where it hurts the most. I mean, if you look at what Australia did to France, for example, right, and the rest of Europe, the European Union.
They had to find out on the television, Mickey.
Yeah, and it was astounding that the UK, US, and Australia have now formed this Anglo, and I've spoken about this at length and posted as well. This Anglo-Saxon alliance. It's the Anglo-Saxon axis, no pun intended. And which goes, US, UK, and then draw a line through it, through Asia.
And then that guy from down under.
The guy, that fellow, Mr. Prime Minister, at least he knew who he was. He didn't call him
he knew the
Mr.
role.
President.
He's only been talking to him for probably, 3 weeks organizing this stuff.
Yeah. Or the king. The king of Australia has been helping us. Thank you very much. But it was embarrassing. Now, so you've got this really, and this is a throwback to, I want to say, 60, 70, 80 years ago, where you have this Anglo-Saxon alliance to the exclusion of other white folk. So if you think this is a white thing, it's not. It's not a white thing at all. It's because the French are really unhappy and they're very white, right?
Yeah, that's
the rest
true.
Of the European Union, and interestingly enough, the UK has exited the EU. America under Trump, and I can't really fault him for it, really distanced himself or themselves from the rest of the world, in NATO including. And Australia, who's been alienating our Asian neighbors.
But that was the style at the time, Mickey.
It's the style of the time.
Right? Everyone was doing that. Everyone was going, you know what? All this stuff going on, we should really concentrate on ourselves. He was right.
He was right.
That you should have done that.
See, this whole in-your-face submarine debacle. Yeah, but see, it really upset the French, number one, and the rest of the EU, because there's a knock-on effect as far as money is concerned. It also upset the Chinese. So we've managed to upset the European Union, and we've also upset the Chinese.
Our greatest trading partner,
Yeah, exactly. So the French don't talk to us anymore. They really don't. And the Chinese are upset. And the kicker is this, Dave. This axis.
Wait. You mispronounce any French word in front of a French person, they won't talk to you again.
That is true.
Français. Go ahead, this axis.
Yeah, so the kicker is this, though. We're not getting any of those submarines until 2035, 2040. So it's
already too late.
Well, it's going to be 15 to 20 years before. So we've now, this is what's happened. We're in the schoolyard, right? I, Dave, we're sitting on the side. We're just playing handball.
Yeah.
And there's a bully.
Oh, I'm having flashbacks now because I was delivered unconscious on my first day before the first bell, by the principal to my mother at home. He drove me personally home, and I was still unconscious, not to hospital, right? Let's just not forget that he had the ability to take me to a hospital and have this all, legitimized, right? But no, let's sweep this on. It was before the bell, right? Sure, yes it was. So it didn't happen on school time, no, right? So let's just deliver him home to my mother. Don't know what happened. Looks like he's been in some kind of altercation. See you later. So yeah, you brought those memories back, Mackie, because we were playing handball.
Cascading.
Right before I stopped remembering things.
And we're watching these three kids. They're athletic kids. One is a bit smaller than the other two. But there's this big bully. So what they've done is they've gone to their old friends and they spat in their face and said, "We're going to play with you anymore." So they spit in your face and push them to the ground. And then they go to the biggest bully in the yard and they they spit that bully in the face and kick him where it hurts,
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Ha ha ha! In 5 years we will fight you and we will win." Ha ha ha! and the bully in the meantime sits on them, gives them wedgies, atomic as well as nuclear wedgies, and see, this is where we are.
We've bought something.
Yes.
We've bought something on lay-by, or in America, layaway.
Yeah,
Right?
layaway.
We bought some weapons on layaway, and we're going to come back, and we're going to get you, right?
There was this. I don't think it was Chris Rock. I think it was the other guy. I forget his name.
15 years. So
And he said,
when
"I
we're,
got these bullets on layaway, and then I'm going to get you."
yeah, so 15 years, Mackie, from now, we're going to get
We're going to get
the submarines.
Yeah, see, it's the stupidest thing to be doing. It actually, see, it sends all the wrong messages. And Mr. Scotty here from marketing is a moron.
Yeah.
For doing it in the way he did. Now, America and the UK don't really care. If they can snub China, great.
The blustery style of the US politics, international politics, sure, all right.
But Australia, we haven't got a leg to stand on. I mean, it's insane.
We're the lapdog in the cartoons, Mackie.
Yeah, good.
What'd you say? We're going to go this? No? What are we doing? Over here? Yeah, sure. Yeah. I know.
It's complete nuts. I mean, you keep that kind of stuff secret until you have something in the garage.
Oh, no, you don't.
Right?
No, apparently you don't. You just
No,
tell everyone.
Everybody. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to beat you up in 10 years. I'm going to beat you up. You're stronger than me now, and you're bigger than me now, and you can beat me 15 times over. But in 10 years, I'm going to come and get you.
This is just how crazy it is. Now, I was watching all the problems with the border, and like, you know how we spoke about it last week, they've done an aerial shot of this, which looks like a bridge, but it's a kind of a raised freeway kind of thing, you'd notice. And they were flying for quite a little while, doing a slow pan, and there's a lot of people there. I mean, there's a lot, and I really have to think: does America need such low wages for menial jobs that they're willing to do this from a governing point of view, or is this part of the message that we're not read into, where the meteor is actually going to hit South America, right? And it's an undisclosed goodwill movement of people. Just think about how crazy that sounds. Until it happens, you go, "Oh, yeah, that's what it was." I don't know. My words are, I don't know why you would let that many people just come into your country undocumented. I think that's really bad. At least if they said, form an orderly queue, we'll process you, and everything's going to be right. But they're making their own huts out of bamboo. I was watching them do it on the doco. Like, what's going on? I had to pitch that up to make it sound like I was really asking you a question. I really don't.
No, I understand.
I don't know. I don't know what the motive is, because I'm all about, look, here's the actions going on. All right, well, what would entice someone to do that? Like Mecki and I were talking about the upcoming New South Wales, our state elections, and how the sudden resignation of the leader of the party. Remember, I love the leader. Resignation.
I love him more.
So the sudden resignation of the leader would mean that someone else would have to get in place. Now, the current leader is just about to announce not just the having gone through all the lockdowns and being the bad cop, but now is about to be the good cop and release everybody. And so anyone else releasing them, like being replaced and having some schmo from, the accounting room, right, or the mailroom doing the announcement, won't have the jubilance around it. We're not going to care at that point. So what was it, I wonder, that was so great as to, in 1 minute, being praised by the Prime Minister as being an awesome person, so solid, and then I've got full faith in that person. The next thing they've quit. You know, it's
it does worry me when these things happen. Like I said before, if she's leaving Sydney,
yeah,
right, I'm gonna move. it's that simple. It's the same when the Chinese stop buying our pork, I'm gonna move. So these are all indicators to me of this. It's the barometer of my confidence. It's what it is, as to where I live. Because I mean, all these things matter, right? I mean, if you see leaders resign or leaders, disappear, whatever it might be, I mean, I'm not saying it's always with a malice of forethought or in order to save their own skin. It happens for other reasons too. But I'm always worried, especially if it happens to a number of them and at critical times like this one. And again, globally as well, we see a certain leaders changing. So it's a really, from a point of view of stability globally as well as locally and regionally.
Time, Mickey.
It is very. And again, we have not seen this for a very long time indeed. Not this kind of thing. And what worries me as well is when you've got Scotty from marketing saying, "Oh, those secure times we've been enjoying for the last few decades. Yeah, well, they're gone now. You better have your shotgun in your garage." No, he didn't. He didn't say the shotgun bit.
No, he didn't.
But you don't say that. You don't say that to the nation. Oh, these secure times are behind us. We're gonna arm up. It's the wrong thing to say.
Yeah,
just escalating. The whole mindset. It's a terrible thing.
Do you know, Mickey? I just wanted to let everybody on the planet know who listens to the show that we're nearly a tenth into the Spanish flu deaths equivalent. We're at 4.7 million deaths so far associated with the virus. England is having a hard time after they've opened up with their hospitalizations for regular treatment. And this is the challenge now. I think, was it Singapore? Maggie, I saw a story this week thereabouts.
Which one?
Singapore having opened up, and there's some challenges that, these are, So these two countries opening up nearly fully vaxxed, and what they're facing is what we're going to face, and what everyone else is going to face, and how this new world is going to look for everyone. Mickey, when I heard our theme song playing, I was astounded at just how sharp and on point those messages are.
I know, right?
Not specifically about the tinfoil hat wearing component of it, but everything's poised and ready, everything's in place, the New World Order, Agenda 21, and all of those things, they've all lined up. They're all. I mean, as much as I'd love to discuss it since 2012 in those last nearly 500 shows. I really didn't think we were going to get to the pointy end. I always thought it was going to be some other decade.
We all like to think that, as observers, and progestators, rather,
confabulators.
Oh well, hopefully not confabulators, but certainly as people that take a view into the future and try to come up with some kind of reasonable and understandable outlook and outcome, we always seem removed. I've always been the observer in my life, certainly, when it comes to anything, and to see it unfold as rapidly as it has is uncomfortable. To see it unfold in your lifetime is harrowing. And not being able to do anything meaningful about it is worse yet. I mean, look, we've got the show, and I say this to people as well, because I get upset a little when people start soapboxing about specific things, and I'm happy about, but it's a weekly thing or a daily thing. I'm happy about this. I'm unhappy about the other. So they vent their rage and their anger, and then they're good. They're done. You and I, we've been doing this show now for 10 years, 500 episodes, and we've always won our heart on our sleeve. We've said things, we've warned people, we always try to do the right thing and give people the right information as best as we can, and always advocating for change and advocating to look deeper, and hopefully people heed that message. And I'm sure people have listened to this and have hopefully looked deeper and prepared themselves. If that has happened, if even one person has come away from the show in a better place, then I'm very happy. Then our job here is done, right? But I'm really upset when people just vent for a little bit and then they do nothing further in order to affect the outcome. I find it a little upsetting. It's almost like being an armchair debunker in many ways, where you just you belch forth some hot air, and then you sit back and go, see that broadside leveled against him? Oh, I'm so clever. It's like that, right? I mean, if you really feel strongly about something, in my opinion, then do something about it. Go ahead and protest, but keep protesting. The protests that mean something are the protests that are continuing. You can't just walk away now. I mean, there was a protest some years ago in the city, Dave, in Sydney, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the outskirts of it. I saw it. I wasn't part of it, and there might have been a world hunger thing. I can't remember. But then I saw a lot of the protesters going to Starbucks afterwards. Congratulating themselves on their social achievements.
Oh, really?
While swigging, expensive coffee drinks at Starbucks. I've fulfilled my yuppie conscience. Thank you very much.
Now back to the grind. Yeah.
Back to essentially, right? So, but
I'll have my smashed avo sandwich on toast, and
that's exactly.
and a grande cap with one. Thank you.
But is it ethically sourced coffee? Yes, it is. Oh, well, that's okay.
Just because I said so.
Exactly. You know what? No, I have no feelings about Greta Thunberg.
Mm-hmm.
But I did love what she did this week along the same lines. She goes, the world leaders, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, no, I saw that, yeah.
She had it. She's 100%, 1,000% correct in her assessment. Because it is just that. I mean...
Net zero, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you and I, we are both old enough to have seen all of the climate conferences.
Yes.
Right, for example. But we're also old enough to have seen human rights conferences and disarmament conferences and peace talks and this and that and the other. And the truth is, we're living in a world now which is no longer ruled by people that do it for life, with the exception of the Chinese and the Russians. But so we are now ruled by a political caste which has probably a half-life of 4 or 5 years. So they're staying in power maybe 10 years, maybe less, right? In Australia, a lot less. But that's so it's no longer a long view and a long visionary thing. This
it's
is
only one premiere till Christmas, Mickey.
One premiere till Christmas. And the problem with that is that most of the people that make it to the upper echelons of power only do so to further their own aims and feather their own nest. It's just human nature. I get it. But
that's it. That's all about the type of people that this whole world is designed to support.
Yes, exactly.
Is that style of person.
100%. 100%. And because it is that, we don't get anything done. Nothing of meaning.
Blah, blah. That's just talk. Yeah. Yes.
I'm not a monarchist. I'm not a royalist. I'm not any of that. But having said that, I do believe very, very strongly that democracy, the way we practice it, or the way we, well, it's not really democracy, but what we call democracy, the way it's practiced is a complete failure, and for the most part, for various reasons. And what most people really need...
For me, it's a failure because the politicians are puppets.
Correct.
Too many vectors, and it's never the true need of the country.
No, it's big money, big corporations,
it's all the sponsors.
It's almost fascism. So it's interesting to see, in the old look, are monarchies ultimately good? No, they're not, because once you've got a dynasty going, you end up with people that are less than able to rule. There was one experiment, and I'll come back to it. There was one experiment some 2,000 years ago in Athens. Mm-hmm. And Athens was facing, back in the day, there were city-states, Sparta, Athens, Corinth, and so forth. So Athens it was a fairly strong trading city, et cetera, et cetera.
That takes me back.
Yeah, I know, right? But it was facing some issues, some serious problems. And they thought, we can't really do anything here. And they had a democratically elected forum. Now, the only people that could participate were men that had served in the army, and landowners.
So no women. That's a limited audience, but why not?
Yeah, it's a limited audience, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not real democracy, but it's the way they understood it at the time. But they said, well, we can't deal with this. So they went to Pericles, and he was a smart fella. And they said to him, look, we need you to get us out of this quagmire. We can't do it. And they had full confidence that he could. And Pericles said, okay, but
You're not going to like it.
exactly. You're not going to like it. You can't depose me. I have got absolute authority. Okay. And you do what I say. And they said, yes. And lo and behold, it was called the Periclean Age.
I'm the new king. Yeah.
It was Tyrant for Life. Essentially, that was his title, Tyrant for Life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a benevolent dictator. And in his time, in the 30 years that he ruled Athens, it went through a golden age because he could make long-term plans, similar to what happened in Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew. Okay, this is that you have a person that is interested in the long-term viability of its nation, and they made plans. So Athens built, a trade fleet and public works. And in the history books, we give Pericles a paragraph. It was a great time. Like there was nothing really happened because there was no war. There was nothing. It's just Pericles, right? Doing good things. And before and after Pericles, you've got the Punic Wars. Sorry, the Peloponnesian Wars, not the Punic Wars. The Peloponnesian Wars. And the Peloponnesian Wars, they lasted, 3, 4, 5 years each. And they take up pages and pages and pages in the history books. And then the 30 years of Pericles is paragraph, which is hilarious. Now, again, in Singapore, something very similar happened. Where Lee Kuan Yew, looked at the Dutch for advice because the Dutch had a very similar problem to Singapore in that they were low-lying and they had to build dams and reclaim land. And so he brought in Dutch experts and he planned Singapore 30, 40, 50 years ahead. And everything he did for Singapore. Now, he did well out of it, don't get me wrong. But if you go there, you can see it. Now, is it the freest country in the world? Well, not really, right? You can't spit gum into the street. You can't graffiti anywhere you want. So all of those things. I know, right? So is it a freedom if you're allowed to graffiti anywhere and put chewing gum on a train seat? No, it's not, but people perceive it that way. So it does. So people can actually live nicely and in harmony and well if they are willing to submit to a benevolent here, dictatorship. Now, I'm not talking about the parasites that are trying to run or have been running the world for thousands of years. They're not a benevolent dictatorship at all. They're parasites. I'm talking about a person or a group of people that really have the best interest in mind. Yeah, yes. The best interest in mind for all of the people, or for most of the people, right? And really driving the human race forward. If you go to Singapore, it really is Asia 101. It's clean, it's stable, relatively still. Crime is very low, right? Is the punishment harsh? Yes. If you caught with drugs, they will execute you. It's similar to Indonesia and other places. And there's caning. There is caning. There's in the newspaper. There's a public shaming page, right? So there are a lot of things that people probably are up on the wrong way by, but it works, and we have to come to a compromise because people are people, right? Ultimately, and people will be people. So can we give people complete and utter freedom? No, we cannot, because if we did, we would descend into chaos overnight. So there have to be laws that people have to be governed, but they have to be governed long term by people that have the long term interest in mind, not by politicians that come and go at every turn. So
frequently that they can never. They only plan for the next election. That's all they do. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the thing is this: to get to the top spot, and this is most governments, you have to, do a lot of things that are, probably unethical, etc., etc. But once you're there, and you stay there for a certain amount of time, it depends on which country, the length of time that is. You are set for life. That's right.
You're done. Pension.
Not like the Mayans.
No.
That was 1 year and you're dead.
That's it.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
And that's why they all struggle. I mean, they're all fighting each other for the top spot. We had was it 5 or 6 prime ministers?
I know.
I mean, that's just insane. In the same party. Party. Yeah. Not different parties, same party.
That's right.
Oh no, I want to go now. Oh no, give me the go.
It's my turn.
No,
and they're like children pushing each other out of the way for it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It is horrendous.
But actually, that's a pretty good segue.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Segway.
Seg away. Yeah. You know, the French don't have a word for entrepreneur. So that's my favorite political quote of all time. You say what you like about Trump, and you know his buffoonery, I think, or you know his 5-year-old, public speaking ability. Outside of that, I'm just going to say there was nearly the biggest problem ever seen, and that was the fake Russian hoax news that went through the FBI through through the lawyer of associated with HC. That's all I'm going to say. And now it seems as though the New York Post has done an opinion piece on this, and it currently says, will the person ever apologize for propagating the biggest hoax in US political history? My question isn't whether that person will apologize, but shouldn't that be a jail sentence? You know, shouldn't that person, that's lying to the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
Surely that's got to be a federal crime. Flabbergasted, Mecky.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So,
because I don't want trouble.
No, I get you, but there are two sets of rules in the world, right?
Oh, that's right.
One is for you and me.
Yeah.
And the rest is for everybody else.
Right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, like OJ with the truck driving down the street on a TV.
I mean, look at Epstein, for example, right? I mean, he was offered a sweetheart deal because he had all the right friends, etc., and then it became untenable, and he was hung out to dry, and you can see it all the time happening, as well. I mean, eventually, somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb if you can't get it under control. And clearly they couldn't get it under control, right? That's what happened in that case. And we see, I'm just going to wonder what's going to happen to Prince Andrew, to be honest with you. But we'll see, right? So that there's a lot of stuff happening.
Well, there were claims that the notice wasn't delivered to him properly because the guards wouldn't let him in the gate.
Yes, that is correct. Now, eventually they did take the subpoena, right?
Yes.
But it was a bit of hoo-ha and back and forth. Yeah, you're right. That is the truth. Which is interesting. Again, because you're that rich person, that's almost untouchable. The normal rules don't apply to you. It's a lot harder to get to you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's so true.
And that's really the point here. And this person, you just referred to by their initials, let's say, is of that family. Now, these are not the parasitic class I talk about when it comes to world history and running for thousands of years.
No.
That person is part of the, well, I guess we can call them the ruling elite, if you will, right? Or the political class that I mentioned earlier, the elected ones, which are completely obsolete in my mind. But it is interesting to see how the normal rules, don't apply to people of that power structure, right? And even when complete falsehoods are propagated, like in, for example, Trump being held by the Russians, the Russia collusion story, etc., right, which was touted for quite a long time. No consequences.
No, that's right. Hey, look, this is David Mecky, Shiny Set Out. This is episode 498. We'll be back after a very short break. So, it's time for a drink of water and maybe a toilet break. But then we ask that you donate, so do that too.